Here's a thought experiment. Two investors start on the same day. Same job, same income, same savings rate, $1,000 a month into the market. They both stick with it for 15 years. The first investor picks the S&P 500 and leaves it alone. Smart, disciplined, historically sound. After 15 years, they've put in $181,000 of their own money, and they walk away with roughly $345,000. That's a real outcome. That's real wealth. The second investor does something slightly different. Same amount, same timeline, but instead of settling at 10% average returns, they build their portfolio around funds that have historically returned around 14 to 20% annually. Same $181,000 in, but they walk away with somewhere between $533,000 and $900,000, depending on what they held. That gap isn't from day trading. It isn't from picking individual stocks or watching charts at midnight. It's from understanding which categories of funds have consistently outperformed and being deliberate about how you use them. That's what this video is actually about. The S&P 500 is not the ceiling. It's the benchmark, the floor most investors should build from. But there are ETFs that have beaten it consistently over the past decade, not by luck, not by a rounding error, by meaningful margins. I'm going to show you 7 of them. Some are high growth, some are income focused. One is built around an investing philosophy that Warren Buffett has used for decades. And one might be sitting inside portfolios you already follow, just under a name you haven't looked up yet. What I'm not going to tell you is to ditch the S&P 500. That would be bad advice. The goal here is to understand what you might be missing alongside it, and whether any of these belong in your portfolio. Let's go through them one by one. ETF number 1. VGT, Vanguard Information Technology ETF. Let's start where the momentum has been loudest, technology. VGT is the Vanguard Information Technology ETF. Over the past 10 years, it has averaged roughly 20.75% in annualized total returns, and over the past 12 months, it's up around 50%. That is not a misprint. The fund holds companies like Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Broadcom, Adobe, and Oracle. It tracks the MSCI US Investable Market Information Technology 2550 Index, which includes large, mid, and small-cap US companies classified specifically as information technology, currently around 323 holdings. The expense ratio is 0.09%. For what you're getting, that's nearly free. But here's something worth knowing, and most people miss this. VGT does not hold Google, Amazon, or Meta. Sounds strange for a technology fund, right? But the reason is technical. Those companies aren't classified as information technology. Google and Meta fall under communication services. Amazon is consumer discretionary. So if VGT is your only growth holding, you're unintentionally missing 3 of the most powerful companies on the planet. That's not a deal breaker, it's just something to be aware of. The other consideration, this is a sector fund. If information technology as a category takes a serious downturn, this fund takes that full hit. There's no buffer from other industries. It's concentrated by design, which is why it performs the way it does, and also why it requires a higher tolerance for volatility. ETF number 2, XLK, Technology Select Sector Spider Fund. XLK doesn't get nearly as much attention as VGT. That's a little surprising because over the past 10 years, it has averaged roughly 21 to 22% in annualized returns, and its one-year total return has come in around 54%. The fund tracks the technology sector of the S&P 500 specifically. That focus means it has far fewer holdings than VGT, currently around 76 companies, but what it lacks in breadth, it makes up in concentration among the strongest names. Its largest holdings are overwhelmingly Microsoft and Apple, then Broadcom, Nvidia, Adobe, and Salesforce. The expense ratio is 0.10%, cheap, clean access to large-cap US technology. That 10-year performance figure is worth sitting with. At that return rate, the same $181,000 invested over 15 years could produce close to $900,000. You're not doing anything exotic, you're just choosing where the compounding happens. The trade-off is that same concentration risk. Like VGT, it doesn't include Amazon, Google, or Meta by GICS classification. But if you believe in large-cap US technology as a long-term growth engine, and the last decade gives you strong reason to, XLK is one of the cleanest ways to access it. ETF 3. FTEC, Fidelity MSCI Information Technology Index ETF. This one is less talked about, but it has a meaningful difference from the first two. FTEC, the Fidelity MSCI Information Technology Index ETF, also tracks information technology. Its top holdings are nearly identical: Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Broadcom, Adobe. And since inception in 2013, its average annual return has been approximately 22%. But here's the distinction. FTEC captures large, mid, and small cap companies in the technology sector. The S&P 500 only holds large caps. So if part of your goal is broader exposure, including the companies that might become tomorrow's giants, this is a meaningful edge. The expense ratio is 0.08%, which makes it the cheapest of the 3 tech funds on this list, currently around 287 holdings. For investors who already hold an S&P 500 fund and want technology exposure that reaches a bit further down the market cap spectrum, ETF number 4, QQQM, Invesco Nasdaq 100 ETF. Most investors know QQQ. QQQM is its newer, quieter sibling, and in almost every measurable way, it's the better choice for long-term investors. Both funds track the Nasdaq 100, which means both hold approximately 100 of the largest non-financial companies listed on the Nasdaq: Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Broadcom, Meta, Nvidia, Tesla, the top tier. The difference comes down to fees. QQQM has an expense ratio of 0.15% compared to QQQ's 0.20%. That's a 25% lower fee for essentially identical exposure. Since inception, QQQM has delivered average annual returns around 17.7%. Its current dividend yield is roughly 0.43%. But here's what separates QQQM from the first 3 funds on this list, and why it belongs in a different category. QQQM is not a pure technology ETF. It's a broad growth fund. Yes, information technology is its largest sector, but it also holds significant positions in communication services, consumer discretionary, consumer staples, and healthcare. That diversification matters. It means a downturn specific to technology doesn't hit this fund the same way it hits VGT or XLK. QQQM has breadth that sector funds don't. This is one of the larger holdings in my own portfolio, not because it's the most exciting, but because the combination of performance, diversification, and low cost is hard to beat. ETF number 5, MOAT, the VanEck Morningstar Wide Moat ETF. Warren Buffett built most of his career around a single idea: find companies with such a durable competitive advantage that competitors simply can't replicate what they do. He calls it a moat, a business so well positioned that the walls protecting it are nearly impossible to breach. MOAT, the VanEck Morningstar Wide Moat ETF, is built entirely around that philosophy. Morningstar analyzes thousands of US companies and identifies those it believes have sustainable competitive advantages. MOAT holds them. The top holdings look very different from the other funds on this list. You'll find companies like Intercontinental Exchange, Autodesk, Alphabet, and CME Group, names you probably aren't heavily exposed to in a standard S&P 500 or tech fund. Low overlap is actually one of this fund's strengths. Over the past 10 years, MOAT has delivered approximately 15% in annualized returns, meaningfully above the S&P 500 average, and with a more balanced sector distribution across technology, financials, healthcare, industrials, and consumer staples. The expense ratio is 0.46%, the highest on this list. That's worth knowing. One other thing that stands out: MOAT screens for ESG factors. Companies must have low controversy scores, manageable carbon risk, and no involvement in tobacco, coal, or controversial weapons. Whether that matters to you personally, it speaks to a level of intentionality in how the fund is constructed. ETF number 6, SPYD, the SPDR Portfolio S&P 500 High Dividend ETF. Everything we've covered so far has been oriented toward growth, price appreciation over time. This one is different.
SPYD is the SPDR Portfolio S&P 500 High Dividend ETF, and its purpose is simple: deliver cash flow. The fund tracks the 80 highest dividend-yielding companies within the S&P 500. Its current dividend yield is approximately 4.25 to 4.3%. The broader S&P 500's yield currently sits around 1.2%. That's a meaningful difference, particularly for investors who want their portfolio to produce income, not just appreciate on paper. The sector exposure here is completely different from the growth funds, heavy in financials, real estate, and utilities. You won't see these names in your tech funds. The PE ratio currently sits around 17x. The expense ratio is just 0.07%, one of the lowest on this list. Since inception in 2015, SPYD's average annual total return has been approximately 9.1%. That's modestly below the long-run S&P 500 average, but total return alone isn't the whole picture when a fund is distributing over 4% of its value annually in dividends. For someone building an income-producing portfolio, that cash flow changes the math. One honest note: SPYD did cut its dividend during the 2020 market disruption. It's not immune to economic cycles. Income funds are rarely.
ETF number 7, SCHD, Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF. The last one on this list is the one I'm most enthusiastic about in the dividend space, and it's meaningfully different from SPYD. SCHD, the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF, isn't just a high-yield fund, it's a dividend growth fund. That distinction matters more than most investors realize. Here's the difference. SPYD maximizes current yield. SCHD is designed around companies that have consistently grown their dividends over time. The current yield is around 3.3%, lower than SPYD, but the trajectory is entirely different. SCHD has raised its dividend every single year for over 14 consecutive years. That's not an accident. The fund screens for companies with at least a 10-year track record of consistent dividend payments, strong cash flow, and healthy return on equity. It isn't chasing the highest payout available. It's looking for companies that can sustain and grow that payout over years. The 10-year total return CAGR is approximately 13.5%, including both price appreciation and reinvested dividends. The expense ratio is just 0.06%, which makes it one of the most cost-efficient dividend funds you'll find anywhere. If you buy SCHD today, the yield on your original investment continues to increase as those companies raise their payouts each year. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, the dividend you receive isn't just the same number, it's compounded alongside the portfolio itself. For long-term investors who want both capital appreciation and a reliable, growing income stream, this is worth serious consideration.